Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Shrinking Season 1, Episode 10 reaction and review. This is the finale, one of my favorite episodes of the entire year, one of my favorite last 5 minutes of any episode of the entire year. I
Boop.
have. What? Am I falling off a cliff now? What's happening to me?
I don't know, but man, yeah, those last 5 minutes were something else. Holy smokes.
See, I'm just at the wedding. I'm doing okay.
You're dancing, I'm booping people off the cliff. I see how it
It's a
is.
very different experience the two of us are having. But no, what makes I think this finale so good, and we'll dive a little bit more into it, is that there is such joy on one side of the coin in this episode. You know, we're at Brian's wedding, we're on the other side of it. Everyone is having this good time. There's a sense of closure, and you're starting to see all these different patients that
Mhm.
Jimmy has had. And there is this feeling. I remember it the first time I watched it being like, oh no, something is going to happen to somebody. I don't know who it is. I don't know what it's going to be. And I was so anxious the first time I saw this.
I was pretty worried. I mean, I was even a little bit worried. I didn't think this was actually going to happen, but I was a little bit worried when Grace and Jimmy were having that conversation. She was like, I just want to boop him right off a cliff. I was like, this is getting really dark, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of darkness in the show. Jimmy has a dark sense of humor that, it just kind of made sense that he'd be like, ha ha ha, no one's going to actually murder anybody. Let's just joke around.
Yeah. The ramifications of this are going to be very interesting and loom very, very large in a season 2. So we're going to talk all about that. Before we do, be sure to join our Patreon. We've got a link in the description for you guys. Every Monday night over there, we do a live stream that we are talking all about shrinking.
Mhm.
Also, here at the channel, we are covering Only Murders in the Building Season 3, a really fun show with a great mystery. Justified City Primeval is also coming to an end, and
Mhm.
there's just so many big things we're looking forward to doing this fall.
Oh yeah, I mean September there's a ton of stuff
Yeah.
coming up like The Morning Show, The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. There's a new show on Apple coming up called The Changeling. We're really
Yeah.
excited about, so hit that subscribe button and stick with us.
Okay. So, Grace, this whole situation is so complicated and so problematic for Jimmy in just the uncounted amount of ways because you alluded to it. When they're having that discussion in therapy in this episode, like to him it's just so obvious that they're speaking metaphorically, and he's happy that he can empower her and make her feel like she has a voice and that finally she's able to stand up for herself. And he sees all of these things as a positive because he has seen everything that he has done since he has taken this new approach as a positive.
Mhm.
And then it all just goes completely awry.
Yeah, I think it's tough because he's at this point kind of painting all of his patients with the same brush. That's
Yeah.
like if it works with one patient, it'll work with another on very serious topics. And then you have the Grace situation where there's something else going on here with her partner, where a lot of these other situations are just something in themselves that they're dealing with themselves, like, what was going on with Sean or some of his other patients. It's just them.
Yeah.
She's in a different spot where she has somebody who's doing something to her. So if she's getting to the point that she's like, I'm just going to boop him right off a cliff. I feel good about everything I'm doing. I'm going to boop him off a cliff. To have your therapist be like, yeah, you boop him off that cliff. That's a permission that really needed to not be there. And that was the moment that Jimmy needed to pull it back to be like,
Yeah.
okay, in a joking way, sure, let's boop him off a cliff. But like, if you're really at the point that you feel like it's time to just kill him, like, we need to have a different discussion.
I think, he's feeling his methods and feeling himself way too much in that moment that he never entertains, even for a second, that this is going to be happening. And I will admit to my own failings through all of this as well, because even with that scene in mind earlier on in the episode, I didn't think it was going to actually happen. Like, I
No.
thought, okay, we're watching these two go on a hike, and there's clearly some sort of problem going on and, something might happen, but I didn't think she was going to kill the guy, and I'm assuming he's gone. We don't know for sure.
Listen, when they were having the conversation earlier, I was like, okay, there's a possibility that this could go sideways because, like I said, a lot of the other patients are just themselves and they're dealing with stuff inside themselves. They don't have an external factor of the husband that's needling her while she's trying to deal with her stuff. It's the only patient he really has that's like that. Where I was like, okay, well, I don't think she's gonna really, kick him off a cliff. But the minute that they showed them on the trail, walking up the trail, I was like, oh, it's happening, and it's happening right now.
I was still in the dark. I was just caught up on the vibes of the dance and enjoying everybody do to get their groove on, that I was just thinking, okay, they're gonna show her standing up for herself, going up here, telling him off, and then just leaving, and then her recognizing that it was all just a metaphor. And that's my own problem for not sort of thinking about, okay, if I was in Grace's position, how angry would I be? I mean, I don't think I would do this, but it's just a situation where she clearly had it in her head that it was okay to do this in this moment because Jimmy, this person who has given her so much good advice, has basically said it's okay.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. He basically said it was okay to her in her mind because she was looking for that validation to be like, hey, you told me to start like booping him about the coffee or booping him
Yeah.
about the eggs and making comments to me about the eggs. All of that's okay. And you reinforce that. And now I've said this thing where I want to boop him off a cliff. And you're like, yeah, you do that thing. You boop him off that cliff. That it's like, okay, I've been given permission by the one person that I trust that it's okay for me to do this. I mean, I think she knows it's not okay, but at the same time, if you're really at that edge and the person that you trust the most, your therapist is like, "Yeah, you go. You boop him off that cliff." That you're going to be like, "Okay, I guess this is okay."
Let's get now, though, to the question of how does this all affect Jimmy in season two? Because there's, I think, a lot of different things to unpack. Number one,
And Paul and Gabby, they're all
yep,
in the same practice. And now he's got a patient who went on his word to go, kick her husband off a cliff.
yes, yes. Now, first of all, what does Grace do? Like, that's a big part of the equation here. Does she go into therapy next and be like, "Oh, guess what I did, Jimmy? I booped him off a cliff." Like, does she say it? Like, that opens up another can of worms because, what does Jimmy do after that? Or is this a situation where, the police already get involved and they discover this guy is gone, Grace ends up getting arrested? I think no matter what, the question all comes down to how culpable is Jimmy in what happened because of what he said. And this is a really delicate, tricky legal minefield that he is going to find himself in.
Absolutely. This is going to be really, really difficult for him next season. And, they had to set up something because this episode and this whole season really
Yeah.
was him growing into a place where he could actually face his, grief and grow from it and start to move forward. We've seen this the past couple episodes. This episode, where he does have everything put away, he's ready to move on. Alice was having a bit more of a harder time. And I'm really glad that they actually talked about this in this episode too, where you've got a family of people who are all grieving over the same thing, and people grieve at different times. They start grieving at different
Yeah.
times, they end grieving at different times. And for him, the last episode, we saw him starting to put things away, take off his ring. Alice is like, "Oh my God, you took your ring off. Like everything, where's all of mom's stuff? It's all gone." Like she's not there yet. So to have that moment too where Jimmy brings all the boxes back out and he's like, here, I'm ready to move on from these things, but you're not. So, we're bringing you all these boxes back. You get to choose now when it's time to put them away. I thought that was it was such a good moment as a dad, as a therapist, to know what she needed at that time. And that just because he's moving forward doesn't mean she's ready.
It's a huge acknowledgement of the growth that Jimmy has as a character, because
Huge.
Jimmy in the pilot would not do this. Jimmy in episode 5 wouldn't do this. And so, because of all that, I can imagine, at least before everything inevitably goes downhill once this Grace thing gets found out, but at the start of season 2, I think Jimmy and Alice are going to be in a really good place. Like, they understand each other, they understand that grief works in their its own separate ways, and they the final moment with the two of them in this finale is so good, so touching. I read somewhere months ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but that a lot of the dancing in the finale was kind of improvised, and they were just like, go and be joyful, go and have fun. I wish that I was dancing at this wedding. This just looks like a great time. And he tells her, "You look just like your mom." It is
Mm.
the bookend to the pilot.
Oh, yes, except this time he means it in a positive way instead of you look just like your mom, and it's just pain and pain on top of pain for him that now he looks at her and he's like, "Man, you look just like your mom," and it's joyful. And it was really nice to hear him say that again in a better way, in a different way, in a way that makes Alice feel good and not feel guilty that she's just a reminder
Mhm.
of Tia that's just gonna bring her dad pain.
It's funny because were it not for Grace killing someone, this could have been a good series finale because it does feel like everyone else has closure. And then there's Grace who's just like, okay, I'm going to make sure with one boop we're going to get a season 2.
That's right. Now, the wedding. Okay, I was at first, I'm going to admit,
Mhm.
a little bit nervous when Jimmy started giving that speech. And not that he was going to break down or anything like that, but this whole speech was just going to be about Tia
Yeah.
and himself, and that he was just going to use this as an opportunity to be like, I'm feeling much better, Tia this, Tia that. As it started out, I was like, oh, this is not fair. Like, this is Brian and Charlie's wedding. Like, this is not for you to unload yourself on it. However,
Yeah.
they tied it up in a way, and they tied it up pretty quickly in a way that I was like, okay, I feel a bit better about it now because T is the person who introduced Brian and Charlie, and there was an actual story to it for them. For me, though, I would have actually have liked to have seen a little bit of the vows between them because Brian is somebody I've become very invested in this show. And it was kind of like, Tia and Tia did this and Tia brought you guys together. And now you may kiss your husbands. I was like, oh, it would have been nice to see. It didn't have to be long,
Yeah.
but just a little bit of the I love yous and the vows. It's the best part of the wedding for
I
me.
I love it too. And I really like Brian and I really like Charlie because this is a good multifaceted relationship. It's
Mhm.
somebody who, Jimmy has known for a very, very long time. And he's went on a real journey with Brian.
Mhm.
And I really wonder if they shot them and they just were left on the cutting room floor for whatever reason. Maybe they thought the wedding was going too long, but I would have liked to see them. It would have only been like a minute and a half. It didn't have to be some really long thing, but it would have sort of brought, I think, another element of closure. Like Jimmy's speech was really good when he started going into how the time that he had with Tia was the best time of his life and how he valued every single memory. And I was just like, look at you, Siegel. Yeah, you're doing it. Yes, you can be very extra and over the top, and I have seen parts of you in various movies and TV shows I wish I did not see. But at the same time, this was really sincere, really heartfelt, and I'm glad that he stepped up and he didn't completely squander this.
Okay, let's talk about Liz and Gabby and what's going on with Gabby
Yeah,
because Gabby has continued to hook up with Jimmy and Jimmy's continued to hook up with her. And she's been continuing to call him just safe, that
yeah,
he's a safe person for her to be with. There's nothing further between them. And Liz finally finds out that Gabby and Jimmy have been hooking up for a month now. And
yeah.
it was a really great way that they put this together because I thought this might be like, oh, they're going to try to break up this friendship, which is one of my favorite parts of the show is the two of them. They're so funny and they play
Yeah.
off each other so well. But Liz handled it pretty well. And she was just like, oh man, I would have really liked to have known, but now that I know, let's talk about it. Here's a rock. It was so cute.
Yeah.
But Liz is the person to really call out Gabby, to just be like, Jimmy's not safe. Like, you're lying to yourself. He's not safe for you, and I can feel it off of you.
She's clearly right. Just look at Gabby's reaction to that. Like, Gabby doesn't necessarily protest it. I think she knows in her heart that it's true. Now, the question, of course, is does Jimmy feel the same way? I feel like Jimmy, on some level, probably does. I don't know if Jimmy is ready to admit that to himself yet, because this is, he is dealing with grief and he's moved past some of it, but that doesn't mean that he's ready to be in a full-fledged romantic relationship with
Yep.
someone who was so close to his wife. Like, it's all very complicated, but these are feelings that they're going to have to face. I don't think any of us believe that they're not going to be talking about this in some way moving forward. And plus, if Jimmy's not aware of this for a long time, Liz has a big mouth. Liz is probably going to say something, or Liz's husband, who has apparently been watching them.
Yeah, no, I feel that Jimmy will get there, but I don't know that Jimmy's there yet with his feelings. I mean, Gabby has made it pretty clear to him that this is just a safe relationship right now. It's not turning into anything deeper, and she's laid out how she's okay with it. And I think that Jimmy is taking that for face value, to be like, okay, if she doesn't want to move into anything deeper, and I'm not ready to either, then I'm not even looking at something deeper.
Yeah.
I think his door is just closed on that. One, because Gabby said that it's closed right now, and he's respecting that, and he's taking it for what she says it is. And he's just started to move on. So I don't think he's there yet. I can see us getting to the end of a season 2, and it's sort of like Gabby's ready to have something deeper, and he's just like, oh, I thought that we weren't doing that because that's what you said. So, like, I haven't been open to it.
Yeah, and that conversation is going to be great, because I think if Jimmy ever does sort of propose, where he is, how he's feeling, where he is in terms of his grief, Gabby will probably try to deflect and be like, oh, no, no, it's okay. And she's going to be hurting inside. And then we're all just going to want to give Gabby a big hug. And then, of course, once everything with Grace comes out, because Jimmy's going to have a lot of other things on his mind.
And it was nice to also see, a couple other things kind of wrap up. Like, things are much better with Paul and his daughter. We
Yeah.
saw him hug Jimmy, which was nice. We saw him, Paul actually go and step up for Gabby, where she was like, hey, can you write me this recommendation
Yeah.
letter? And she tells Liz, oh, he made me write it myself. And Liz goes in there and just, gives him like the what for. It's just like, no, no, no. You need to go in there and actually write that letter yourself. Like, come on. She's picks you up every morning,
Yeah.
gave you the water bottle and make sure you're hydrated and healthy. Like, she's there for you, and you can't even be bothered to write a letter. Like, stop it. Get to your computer and do it. So to see him actually show up there, I mean, she already got the professorship, but to see him show up there and really pour his heart out to her and be like, I really respect you. You're a great therapist, and this is why you're really great. It was so good. This whole episode was just like the biggest hug of my life. Seeing Liz even talk to Sean to be like, I really want to participate in this, and to be like, cool, let's go look at food trucks. I was like, this episode's giving me everything. It lived up to the hype that you gave this episode, because Matt was really on about what a great, season finale this was, and it really lived up to it.
This is the episode I've been waiting to talk about for a really long time. I mean, a little bit imposter syndrome when Jimmy's barfing on the piano, but this one in particular, I mean, everything comes kind of full circle. We have another reminder of Paul and the water bottle that Gabby put him up to. He's just like sitting there, just like drinking it.
I drink mine every day. It is the same color. It is the same size as Gabby's. Gabby and me, we are the same.
You guys are simpatico.
We are water sisters.
All of that came around really, really great. And yeah, you mentioned Liz and Sean. This is probably one of the stories I'm most excited for moving forward because it's a great side story of Liz who wants to be involved in everything. And then you have Sean who is kind of getting this opportunity that he may never have had in any other scenario. And he's kind of
Mm.
venturing into this great unknown. Like he's clearly talented. And I gotta say, Sean, I love a good po' boy. I love Cajun food. You wanna make me a shrimp po' boy? I will come to your food truck. I will be your biggest supporter as long as you're not charging like I don't know how much they charge for like lobster rolls in Maine where they're like $1 billion. Don't do that, and I will buy your po' boys.
Yeah, no, I think that the Sean and Liz story going forward is going to be a really good one because these are two people that are looking for purpose in their life and
Yeah.
they have such a good friendship. And this is something that could really bring them that purpose that they want.
Now the bad news, we don't know when season 2 is going to happen. I mean, we are months into the writer's strike at the time we're recording this.
Mhm.
Harrison Ford in particular, he's on 1923. He's a very, very busy man.
Mhm.
Let's just hope it's at some point in 2024.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But we'll wrap everything up now. Thank you guys for joining
Thank
us
you.
on this shrinking journey. We really appreciate it. Check out our Patreon, and we have live streams there every Monday talking about shrinking. Thank you, of course, to everyone who is supporting us over there already. We'll see you here next time.